The Houston Safari Club Foundation Worldwide Hunting Expo and Convention at the George R. Brown Convention Center, February 4th through the 6th, 2022. Hunting and fishing outfitters from around the world. Gear, firearms, optics, taxidermy, and more. Banquets, auctions, raffles, and entertainment. $10 at the door. Children 12 and under and active military with ID get in free. Proceeds support youth education, scholarships, conservation, and hunters' rights. Sponsored by Gunworks, Forloh, Capital Farm Credit, Wildlife Partners, and Boyd's Hardwood Gunstocks. Go to WeHuntWeGive.org to learn more.
Tradition, conservation, family, the outdoors. It matters to you. It matters to us. This is Hunting Matters, presented by Houston Safari Club Foundation. Here's Joe Betar.
Good morning. Welcome to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. I'm your host, Joe Betar.
I am Ramon Robles.
Did you lower my seat?
I did. I like to sit a little taller than you.
It's like I'm on a job interview over here. I feel low to the ground today.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Oh, man.
I just wanted to appear more superior to you.
Well, you are superior to me in many, many ways. How's your week been?
It's good, man. We had our first teacher-parent conference or parent-teacher conference, whatever that is.
Did you get passing grades?
I did. I embarrassed my wife. I asked those stupid questions.
Of course.
Like, is my kid going to be a Republican or Democrat? Can you tell yet? Things like that. She's like, stop.
Sure.
But yeah, it was good.
You are the comedic relief when it comes to high pressure situations.
I appreciate that.
Well, let's see. What did I do? Well, Houston Safari Club Foundation had a big dove hunt this week. It went pretty well.
Yeah.
They had some good number of birds. It wasn't, like you see in some parts of Texas, but everybody had a great time. And
I heard some of the birds just died of heat exhaustion.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then, a day or so later, we get thunderstorms. And
right.
I was out in San Diego visiting my son who's in the Navy station out there, and we got to see our granddaughter.
Nice.
And, man, the weather, wow. I wouldn't want to live there.
Chamber of Commerce?
Oh, my gosh. 70s of the day and low 60s, 50s at night. And food was great. The scenery was great. Got to go out to Coronado and look at the bays. And,
oh, nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So enjoyed that. Kind of got spoiled. It was weird. After a few days, I was stuck out there. And, we were at his place, and we were taking care of the grandbaby, pulled her out of preschool or daycare.
Mm-hmm.
And after about 3 days, I lost track of time, the day. It was weird because I was in a strange environment. I wasn't really checking emails that much, so it was kind of cool to unplug. And now I come home and I've got to get packed because I'm leaving for Namibia next week.
Goodness, poor thing.
Well, that was a miracle that got pulled off. Thank you to a certain congressman. He knows who he is, that helped me walk that through the system. State Department is absolutely inundated right now. And
really?
My passport renewal was
what's the State Department doing these days?
That's some other countries that are needing to get people out.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's been kind of crazy. So
so you're back. I bet it was difficult getting used to the time change.
It was.
Okay.
It was difficult going because it was 10 o'clock and I was yawning.
Yeah, you're right.
And then I come home last night and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm sitting up looking at the television going, well, I probably should close my eyes and try to get some sleep here. So anyway, I'm pumped because this week we've got a very cool guest with us.
Yeah.
A gentleman by the name of Bryan Koontz. Bryan is the CEO of Guidefitter, and I am a personal advocate for Guidefitter because I've shopped there before and bought things, and it's really cool. So we're going to learn all about that. Just to give you a little bit of background, he grew up in the East Coast in Maryland, graduated, Ramon, we're out of our league, graduated from MIT with an engineering master's degree.
Ooh.
And he's done a variety of different things over his career, so we're going to learn about that today. So, Bryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. I'm happy to be here.
So when I told Ramon that I gave him your profile and, I said, this guy's coming on, he graduated from MIT, Ramon pulled his dictionary and his thesaurus out. So, so he could keep up with you today.
I'm ready.
Well, I think, I'm pretty sure all of my professors have taught me which has been quite a while ago now. So, I'm not going to age myself, but after I left there, I didn't do any engineering. So,
really?
I'm not sure how good of an education that was after all, but anyways.
So what did you actually do after that, after you graduated?
Well, it's actually the beginning of my Texas story. So I was recruited down to Austin, Texas, back in the mid-'90s, right out of school. And I remember I actually sent my recruiter an email And I said, yeah, I have no interest in moving to Texas. And then he promptly ignored that email and then sent me some airplane tickets for my wife and I at the time to come down there. So whatever he did worked, because I think that was 1996. And then until very recently, I had been, more or less living in Texas for 20 couple years. So.
Nice. And you were based out of Austin, and now you're based out of Bozeman, Montana, which is not a hard place to go from Texas to Montana, right?
No, not at all. Nope. I got to be honest. I miss the margaritas and I miss the Texas barbecue, but I do not miss the Austin traffic and the heat. It's only 66 degrees up here right now, currently. So.
Yeah, I was in Missoula a couple of weeks ago for some business, and it was the weather was fabulous. It was a little hot during the day, but man, the fires that they were having up there were once again another summer tragedy. What's your take on that?
It's bad. I mean, I'm learning that the locals here, it's almost like it's another season, spring, summer, fall, whatever. It's fire season, kind of mid to late summer, and it's been really bad again this year. I mean, yesterday and today, for the first time, we can actually see the Bridger Mountains and the Spanish Peaks and some of the mountains around. But, for most of the past month and a half, you can't see anything around. I mean, Gallatin Valley here, where Bozeman is located, is you're kind of in a bowl just surrounded by mountains. And, the fires have been so bad in Idaho and all the surrounding areas, including in Montana, and you can't even see the mountains. It's really bad, but hopefully that's getting behind us. And those firefighters, man, God bless them. I think that is one of the most underappreciated jobs out there.
Yeah, I agree. They talk about the fires. They don't talk about the people fighting them as nearly as much as they should. And, I've got a buddy actually who's, I think he's evacuated or is currently evacuating out of the Tahoe area because Lake Tahoe's under a huge threat right now as well. And I'd be curious, as an outdoorsman and somebody who lives in Montana, what's your take on it? The news immediately is going to come off and say it's global warming. What is your take on it?
Man, I don't know. Maybe I should have stayed in school longer to really study all that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think there's clearly something happening, with the environment and all that. I don't. It's unfortunate that whole discussion has become such a political discussion instead of just trying to figure out what's going on. But I don't know. But I can tell you it impacts so many people's lives clearly, out here, and I think it's something that growing up on the East Coast and even in living so long in Texas. It's not really until you're here living it and breathing it, literally breathing it every day, that that you understand the gravity of what happens every summer. And it's whatever it is that's going on, it's something that needs to be figured out. And maybe we won't figure it out. I don't know.
I know that we don't have the answer. All right, folks, joining us today is our guest, Bryan Koontz, the CEO of Guidefitter, and we're going to learn all about Guidefitter when we come back on the other side.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Folks, it's good when you're sitting around a campfire after a day in the field, a really nice cigar. Our friends at Lucho Cigars, based right here in Houston, Texas, offer hand-rolled cigars using Cuban seed tobacco cultivated in the Esteli region of Nicaragua. Once they're rolled, then they age them for 8 months. The aging process amplifies the aroma and distinct taste of a Lucho cigar. And if you join the Lucho Cigar Club right now, you can receive 3 premium Lucho cigars for only $29.95. There are 3 different membership levels to choose from. Go to lucho.com/cigars, sign up now, and receive an exclusive offer just for listening to Hunting Matters or for being a member of the Houston Safari Club Foundation. That's LUCHO, Lucho Cigars, the world's finest.
Have you heard about the Houston Safari Club Foundation? They're a nonprofit organization that provides annual scholarships to college students, hunting and fishing trips, and outdoor education programs for hundreds of students each year. And they fund conservation projects at home and abroad to protect habitat and wildlife. A community of hunters and people passionate about the outdoors. Monthly events, an annual convention, member benefits, and so much more. Whether you hunt quail in South Texas or big game around the world, this is the place for you. Become a member today. Go to WeHuntWeGive.org to learn more. WeHuntWeGive.org.
Host Joe Bitar.
I am Ramon Robles.
And we are joined by Bryan Koontz. Bryan is the CEO of Guidefitter. If you've not checked them out yet, guidefitter.com is one of my favorite places to go. So
I'm excited that I'm meeting my new best friend today because, it's important you remember these dates, and this is one that will definitely be remembered.
Yeah, Bryan, just to give you a little history on the subject, Ramon has solicited free products from every guest we've had, and they've offered them, but he also was deputized as an honorary game warden in the state of Texas as a result of this podcast.
Uh-huh.
And also, it's not like I'm getting free stuff. In return, I'm giving you my friendship. And what value can you put on that? Honestly,
that sounds like a very equitable exchange.
Yeah,
sure.
I appreciate that.
Priceless.
See, MIT education right there.
He used the word equitable. I can't even say it. Nobody else has ever used it on this podcast.
Well, speaking of Texas game wardens, the only meeting I've ever had where someone placed a loaded .45 caliber pistol on the table in the middle of our meeting was with your former I forget the title. I'm going to screw it up, and I apologize to Graham, but it was Graham. I forget his last name now, and I'm really embarrassed. But your head game warden down there was in Austin, Texas, and so that stands out. That was the first time anyone's ever pulled a loaded pistol out and kind of placed it on the table. So I don't know. Maybe our meeting wasn't going well. I don't know.
That could be a sign. I've got 3 sons, and I practiced that routine in anticipation and hope that I was going to have a daughter and get to meet the boyfriend. And I never got to practice that. But we did have a couple of girls in the neighborhood, young ladies, who were basically like our own kids. They were raised without a father, and I was introduced to one of the girls' boyfriend right before a high school dance. She goes, "This is Joe. He's like my dad, and he does own guns." And this poor kid, 16-year-old kid, just was shaking in his boots. So
yeah.
Were you thinking?
I have an 18-year-old daughter, and now a 15-year-old daughter.
Ooh.
My 18-year-old's a freshman at Montana State here in the Honors College. So shout out to her. Very proud dad, and also proud dad for my 15-year-old who just started at the Gallatin High here in Bozeman. So yeah, I've got it all worked out. I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to quietly be cleaning all of my firearms in the background.
Yep. Yep. I had a buddy who once dated a girl in high school, and I think his girlfriend's father said to him one time, he said, "I've done some time in the penitentiary, and I'm not afraid of going back."
It's good.
All right, man,
let's
we'll quit horsing around here. Listen, I'm curious to learn about Guidefitter. How did you come up with the idea? What is it? Kind of give us the Guidefitter 101 lesson, if you would.
Yeah, sure. So, I'm kind of an odd bird because my professional career is so steeped in technology and software and the internet and all that fun stuff. None of my Silicon Valley friends can understand, my gun collection and my hunting passion and all that. And there was a moment, I think back in the late 2000s, first decade, that I went on my first guided hunt ever, and it happened to be here in Montana, just north of Bozeman and near White Sulphur Springs. And I'm a typical East Coaster where, most East Coasters grow up just dreaming about going out in the Rocky Mountains and chasing down an elk and stuff. And that was me. And I went out with my brother on an archery elk hunt. And it was really kind of a long story short was it sort of, I started to learn about guides as people and outfitters as small business owners, and it kind of my eyes were open. There's this massive industry out there that no one really seemed to be paying attention to in a formal way. Tens of thousands of small business owners, and they employ a bunch of people, and it doesn't take too much Googling around and researching to realize how much gear, backpacks, boots, all that stuff flows through that industry. But more importantly, just focusing on the people, that there's this giant industry that no one was really serving. So I thought, there's got to be something there. And I've always been kind of entrepreneurial and started a few companies here and there. And so I thought there's got to be something there. And it seemed to be that the Silicon Valley types kind of look at that hunting and the sport. And I think I'm going to draw a very large stereotype with them, as I'm sure that many of them do with folks who enjoy the sport. But it just felt to me like most of the folks that think about starting companies and all that, looked at this whole sport as just a bunch of slack-jawed rednecks that don't know what they're doing, and it's not really high value and all that. And so that's what led me to even think about it. And then the first idea that I had was like, well, I was working for a different company at the time. I was really pretty deep into internet search technologies and stuff, and that company was running the automotive search for Yahoo and AOL and other companies. And so I kind of had search on the brain. So I thought, well, let's just start a really awesome search engine so that anyone can find any outfitter in the world, was kind of the idea, and make it really clean, very inclusive. I wanted all the outfitters everywhere to be in the database. And the long story short is that ended up having, value to a lot of outdoor brands. And I wish I could say we were geniuses at the beginning and kind of predicted that's how it would go. We had no idea until we kind of got into it, that, finding all of those people that have as their passion and profession hunting and fishing and taking people outside and all that has immense value to manufacturers of all the outdoor gear that we all enjoy. And so what I'm talking about are things like guide and outfitter pro purchase programs and things like that. And so that's kind of what led us to do what we're doing now, which is, if you fast forward to today, we now are really a marketing platform for about 350 brands in the outdoor industry, brands like Swarovski Optik and Leica and Kenetrek boots and First Lite and Polaris Ranger and Weatherby, and brands like that. And what we do for those brands and what we do for the outdoor professionals out there is we put them together. We find all of the people out there that really are the true outdoor pros. These aren't the posers. These are people that are, beating the trails, for months out of the year, taking clients, getting them to chase down bulls in Montana or bears in Maine or whitetails in Texas, whatever. These people that have really deep, what we call influence authority around the products and gear that they use, and we connect them to the brands that they love, and a whole bunch of other things related to the outfitting industry. But that's a little bit of a long story. But that's how we got into what we're doing and what we're doing now.
So you're kind of a matchmaker, if you will.
Yeah, in some ways. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, like you said, there's people out there who do this for a living every single day, both on the manufacturer side and the practical user side, whether it's an outfitter, a guide, professional hunter, whatever that may be, or general consumer. And you're kind of you've identified the need of both parties, and you're matching them together, correct?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And I think the important thing here too is, the word influencer gets thrown around out there quite a bit. And I believe that in most conversations, when you say, hey, if you're talking to a brand and you say, I'm going to hook you up with an influencer, the first thing that comes to mind is someone with a big Instagram following or something like that. And that's not necessarily the kind of person that we're talking about and that we spend our time with. That might happen. But more often than not, what we're talking about is someone that if you bumped into them on the street, you wouldn't have any idea who they are, but it's because of what they do for a living, and how connected they are in their profession, either their current profession or their past profession, to the outdoors and the equipment they use that has immense value to the brands. And it's very, very difficult for a brand to find those people. It's very difficult for us to find those people or anyone to find those people. But, there could be a mostly anonymous hunting guide, for example, somewhere in the country or the world that it just turns out is the most valuable brand promoter for Vortex or whoever it might be, right? And so it's a really important piece of what we do every day. We find these people that just are so valuable for brands and it's so fun to talk to as well. So.
Yeah, I think it's an invaluable service. Folks, we're joined today by Bryan Koontz, the CEO of Guidefitter. You can learn about him on all the social media channels. Just type in Guidefitter on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and their website, guidefitter.com. We're going to take a quick break here on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950.
Robles.
So what do you think so far about our guest, Ramon?
Very knowledgeable, very well-spoken. I'm also on guidefitter.com, and I've circled some things.
Yeah.
Mentally. Not
Put them on your wish list?
Yeah, they're, just kind of.
For Labor Day?
Yes, yeah. Going to try to talk them into, little brother-in-law discount.
Yeah. Well, hey, let me tell you, I got into pellet grills through Guidefitter.
Is that right?
That's where I got my first Camp Chef pellet grill was Guidefitter. Man, I love it.
And you talk about that thing all the time. I had no idea.
All the time. Folks, we're joined by Bryan Koontz, the CEO of Guidefitter. Bryan, thank you once again for being on the show.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I'm sure you heard me talking to Ramon. I'm a rabid peruser, I guess you will, of the website and the Camp Chef grill. Man, the pellet grill. I want to talk about barbecue here in a little bit because we're going to have a little debate here. But I was a smoker, griller. I did propane, the whole deal. But man, that pellet grill's kind of spoiled me bad. I can put a brisket on there and walk away and come back 12 hours later and it's pretty much done. So
I used to make fun of people like you.
Yeah. I know you did.
But now I understand the convenience.
Make fun of me or our guest?
No, you.
Oh, of course.
Joe, not our guest. Brian's done nothing wrong. Don't talk to my best friend like that, Joe.
Well, I know exactly what you mean. I found the pellet grill religion. I pellet smoker religion. I bought a Traeger, and man, it's just you just plug that little. I've never used a temperature probe, and being a tech nerd, I love that there's an app, and you just plug it in there, and it beeps at you and tells you when to go check on things. But I did screw up the first time I wanted to cook my first brisket. I made the rookie mistake of putting that thing on the grill fat side down. And so not only did I blow dinner, I ended up having to set my alarm every hour and a half all night. And I think by the time it was done, it was like 9:30 in the morning. And my family was eating it, scrambled eggs and brisket. So I learned my lesson, but it's delicious.
Yeah, there's nothing better than a brisket breakfast taco.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So we were talking a little bit. I want to come back to barbecue a little bit later. We were talking a little bit about influencers, and you talked a little bit about what a true influencer is. And I'm kind of curious to get your take, having been in this business for so long, to get your take on big tech. You and I were kind of back and forth before we set up a schedule to talk today. But you brought up a phrase that piques my interest: the exclusionary position of big tech in regards to hunting and fishing. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic that I don't think gets enough airtime, certainly within our industry, meaning the outdoor industry, and folks who like to legally enjoy one of America's traditional favorite pastimes, which is hunting, fishing, the outdoors. And what's going on, and I think it's something that every sportsman needs to be very aware of, is it is getting increasingly difficult to participate as a company, as a brand. So we run into this ourselves at Guidefitter, and talking to a lot of our business partners, certainly ammo and firearms companies for sure, but they are excluded by big tech like Google, Facebook, and of course, Facebook owns Instagram, and Microsoft has similar advertising policies. But you are not allowed to advertise, to use their advertising platforms to advertise anything related to a firearm. It's certainly, like I said, ammo, one of our partners is Federal and also Hornady. Those folks can't advertise at all. They can't even can't even go near the parking lot, pretty much, of these advertising platforms.
Yeah, and I don't mean to interrupt you here, but one thing, we can't even put up. We do sporting clays tournaments to raise funds for our youth education programs, and those get rejected and yanked down every single time if there's a picture of a guy holding a shotgun.
Correct. Oh yeah. We were running we were trying to do some advertisement for Swarovski Optik as a partner of ours, and we got shut down just with the word Swarovski. And we've been trying to get a hold of someone at Google to ask them questions. For example, bird watchers love the NL Pure binocular from Swarovski. It's an amazing piece of glass. And so we don't know at this point, we spend tens of thousands of dollars a month on advertising for these platforms. And I don't know even right now if I'm allowed to mention Swarovski Optik. And they're shutting us down because maybe sort of kind of it has something to do with firearms. I don't know. And it's really something, what's going on. And so, anything touching or related to the sport seems to be taboo. And It's very interesting. It somehow seems a little bit, anti-American to me, for sure.
Slightly. Yeah, I agree 100%. When you can't even put glass up, and like you said, there's a lot of bird watchers who buy a lot of expensive optics. And to have somebody sitting at a computer making the thumbs up, thumbs down on what product can get pushed and what product can is pretty ridiculous. I mean, if it gets all lumped into one thing, I don't know, maybe they hate birds. Who knows? I don't get it.
We have an Android app, an iPhone and an Android app for Guidefitter, and our Android app at one point 2 years ago got banned from the Google Play Store. And we fought the battle, we did the appeal and so on, and they were saying it promoted violence, it promoted cruelty to animals and all this stuff. And I sent, as part of the appeals process, I sent them a whole bunch of statistics on how many tens of millions of Americans enjoy this, and grandfathers did it and then before them, and shared a bunch of photos that our members have shared with grandmas with their grandkids holding up a nice fish and sunsets and all this stuff. I'm like, and they told me it was offensive, and I said, is it offensive to you personally, or is it offensive to the 80 million Americans who seem to enjoy this, and it's part of who they are and who we are as a country? So they did reverse the appeal, but it's just another example of what I'm talking about with this sort of exclusionary position that big tech seems to have. So,
yeah, too. And the other thing that I think people who throw things to try to put them in neat, tidy packages and dump things in a bucket, those people that are saying no or rejecting those ads or rejecting those business opportunities, they have no clue how much money is pumped into our economy by people who hunt and fish and enjoy the outdoors. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, those monies that are generated by people who enjoy the outdoors, whether you hunt, fish, both, whatever, that comes through excise taxes, that comes through the purchase of licenses to hunt and fish. There's a federal economic model for funding, but if you don't have people spending money on licenses and gear, you don't have animals and you don't have wildlife.
No, it's when people care about a thing because they enjoy the thing, that's when they want to preserve the thing, right? Whatever it is. So hunters and anglers in particular, and you can broaden that to people who just enjoy the outdoors. If you care very much about a white-tailed deer because you just enjoy the sport and you enjoy the food it provides and all the things that go with that, then you're going to care very much about the conservation of a white-tailed deer. And it's more than just about a deer; it's about all the deer. Right, and so I completely agree. And there's a lot of conversations going on right now, about the backpack tax, and I know organizations like Backcountry Hunters and Anglers have been talking about that for a while. And I think there's an article recently in Outdoor Bozeman magazine here in Bozeman, Montana, about that. But how many people enjoy the outdoors, and they're kind of enjoying it, more or less on the backs of hunters and anglers who through those excise taxes and other things that you mentioned, are helping to pay for all that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one of the things I've referenced it before, one thing that was really dramatic, and it sticks in my mind, and I share this with a lot of people. We were actually we were in camp someplace and filming a television show, and this woman joined us for dinner, and she was anti-hunting. She couldn't believe we were doing it. She couldn't believe we were filming it. And the guy, one of our camera guys, said, "Ma'am, can we just talk for a few minutes about this?" Because we showed up for dinner in camo. We'd come off the mountain late, and she was appalled. And he said, "Look, if you'll go out and buy a hunting license," he said, "whether you hunt or not, just go out and buy a hunting and fishing license in your state next year. You'll do more to save wildlife and habitat buying a license every year and never using it than you will giving $20 to Humane Society or anybody else that you've been giving your money to." And she said, "You know what?" And then by the end of the night, he had her convinced. She said, "I'm going to go buy a hunting license. Never use it, but I'm going to go buy one."
Good for him. Good for her.
Yep.
Man,
that's great.
That's a great method.
It really is. I had to bow down to him on that day. He's done a few things I didn't agree with, but he
Very
was a genius.
Mr. Miyagi of him.
Yeah, that's right. He was wax on, wax off that night. He definitely converted her. Paint the fence, yeah.
All right, ask the question. I know you got a question, but we got about 30 seconds left in this segment. So
which one?
Oh, just I thought you were set up to ask
question.
Well, any question.
Yeah, ask him your question.
Well, my question is, and we ask this of everybody, Bryan. What is the nearest weapon to you?
What is the nearest weapon to me?
Mm-hmm.
In my probably 30 meters from where I'm sitting, I have a Glock 20 10 millimeter loaded in my Jeep Wrangler.
Okay, now say that in English, American units. What's 30 meters? I'm just
30
kidding.
yards from here, I've got a 30 yards from here. I've got a 10 millimeter pistol.
Yeah, that's fine. A 10 millimeter.
Have you hunted
Nice.
big game with a 10 millimeter?
I have not hunted. No, I just kind of carry it with me when we cruise around grizzly country here. So
Yeah.
it's a good idea to have some bear spray and a pistol.
Yeah, I've got a buddy who hunts with them, and they're really effective. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break here on Hunting Matters before we wrap it up for the day. We're joined by Bryan Koontz, the CEO of Guidefitter. We'll be right back after this break.
Montana Cafe, Teddy Roosevelt and Hemingway. You can see the pictures all.
Good morning, folks. Welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. This is your host, Joe Beatar.
I am Ramon Robles.
You thought I was going to forget the
I
numbers,
thought
didn't you?
he'd gone senile.
74205.
Did I hear a niner in there?
Is that a niner? Are you using a walkie-talkie? Oh, man, we're joined today by Bryan Koontz. Bryan is the CEO of Guidefitter. You can learn about them. You can go to all the major social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and type in Guidefitter. That's Guidefitter. And they have a great website, guidefitter.com. So, Bryan, thanks once again for joining us.
You bet. Happy to be here, guys.
Now, when we went to break, we were kind of discussing this off the air during the break, but you have a 10 millimeter for bears. And we had talked about, of course, you want to use the bear spray, and if that option's been exhausted and it's a life or death thing, you're going to pull that weapon out. And I asked you, is 10 millimeter enough to stop a bear? Or are you looking to scare it? Or, I mean, would that stop a bear in its tracks?
Yeah. So, look, first and foremost, I hope I never have to pull that out for a bear. I don't want to. I met a guy on a trail. He was from the East Coast, and he was out here mountain biking. He's like, "Yeah, I'm just hoping to see a grizzly."
Ooh.
I'm thinking exactly the opposite. I'm like,
Yeah.
I hope I never see a grizzly.
Of course, he's on a bike, so he has more of a smaller chance of getting away, right?
Not
Yeah.
much.
I'm like maybe in Yellowstone, but no, but I do carry one when I'm out, around especially around the greater Yellowstone ecosystem here. The grizzly bear range seems to be expanding. There's been some pretty credible reports of them being spotted pretty close to the town of Bozeman and stuff. So, but so I knew I wanted a pistol, and I researched it a little bit, and I knew I wanted a 10 millimeter. Seemed to be if you're gonna try to defend, save your life by shooting at a bear, which God hopefully never happens.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted a 10 mil, and it's a really interesting sort of guide related story, because me being the naive person that I now know I am, I'm like, okay, 10 millimeter. And I saw this ad for the Springfield 1911 TRP operator 10 mil. I'm like, man, their advertising is amazing. It's a picture of a guy fly fishing and got this 10 mil pistol strapped on his chest. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy this gun. So I buy the gun, and I'm real happy about it. And we had two young guys that are guides up in Alaska, and they specialize in bear guiding. And they were here at our office. We were talking to them about a whole bunch of things. And I was like, hey, guys, let me show you my new pistol. And show it to them, and I'm like all proud of it. I'm like, yeah, it's my bear pistol. And they're like, well, let me tell you about all the reasons why you made a really bad choice. It's like,
Wow.
It's a 1911 platform that slides tight. It's going to jam when you get a little silt in it. And you only have 8 rounds and, blah, blah, blah. Trust me, if you're going to pull your pistol, you're going to want more than 8 rounds. And so, I was like, God, I should have talked to a guy who knows what he's doing before I bought this pistol. So that's why I now have a Glock 20 that has 15 plus 1 rounds. And he's like, yep, trust me, you're going to want all 16 of those rounds if you ever need to use that pistol. So that's my bear pistol guide story.
Yeah.
Sounds like good advice to me.
See, we don't have to talk to a guy now. We'll just go right out and buy a Glock 20 and be set.
Well, I'm an advocate for the 10 mil. I haven't got the 10 mil yet, but I've seen some people hunt with
That's what Ted Nugent uses.
Yeah, and our buddy Razor Dobbs.
Oh,
he's
okay.
actually shot a couple of Cape buffalo and on the run actually in Africa.
Wow.
With a 10 millimeter.
He's just bragging. He's just showing off.
I've seen the photos, and maybe he shot him with something else and then stuck that out there on top of him. Razor, if you're listening, I'm giving you a hard time. So, is there anything new coming down the pipeline from Guidefitter that we need to be on the watch for?
One of the big things that we're doing. Yeah, one of the biggest thing that we're doing now is, until very recently, the only way that any human could purchase anything from us was you had to be in one of, we now manage 8 different categories of, outdoor professionals or other types of, quote, influencers that matter to our brand partners, whether it's a guide or outfitter or a game warden or, an employee of, Fish, Wildlife, and Game or employee of a conservation organization like, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation or Safari Club or, whatever. But what we're doing now is we're opening that up to anyone who loves enjoying the outdoors, hunting, fishing, and gear. And the reason we're doing that is kind of related in some way to what I call the dirty little secret in the outdoor industry as it relates to these pro purchase programs. And what I mean by that is, these discount things have been around for years. I mean, right? Can I get a pro deal is kind of the question. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately for the industry, the reason why I call it the dirty little secret is historically these discount programs have been fraught with a whole bunch of problems. First and foremost, related to a bunch of people get discounts today that the brands do not want to give discounts to. And that really causes a lot of problems with their retail partners and folks, certainly the big guys like Bass Pros and Cabela's, but even especially the smaller guys that are just trying to, make a living and run a small local gun shop or outdoor store or whatever. And they, of course, hate it when someone comes into their shop, tries on a bunch of boots, and then says, "Oh, I'm going to go get a pro deal on these." And especially when that local person knows that person and knows that there's no reason why they should be getting a pro deal. And so that's what we've been focused on for the past 5 years, cleaning that up, making sure that brands who partner with us know that we say no more often than we say yes through vetting folks that come to us and say, "I'm a pro guide," and we make sure they really are a pro guide and they have influence with clients that the brands are looking for. And so that's what we've been doing. And so by opening it up to consumers now, we are really completing the final step to why these pro programs exist. And, there's a saying in our industry that says the pro purchase program doesn't stand for professional. It should stand for promote, which means, if I'm a brand and I'm going to give you 50% off on a $400 rain jacket, I'm doing that for a reason. I want you to get familiar with my brand. I want you to use that product, give me feedback about the product, and if you like it, I want you to tell everyone. I want you to tell all your clients. I want you to recommend it when your clients ask you, what kind of gear should I bring, which is the number one question outfitters get. Yeah. When someone books a hunt or a fishing trip, what should I bring?
Right.
So that's what we're doing now. So we're getting our, all of the professionals that are in our members are writing reviews, and soon they'll be creating gear lists, and they're already answering questions in our community when folks ask, even things like, should I get a angled spotting scope or a straight spotting scope, and what's the difference and all that. So it's really it's so valuable. I mean, I've kind of gotten used to it. Before, like I said, with the I screwed up with the 10 mil pistol thing, but before I buy anything, I just usually text a bunch of my guide buddies and ask them for their opinions. And who better to ask?
Sure.
There's no other more knowledgeable human being on the planet that knows more about what I should be buying for a particular situation than them. And so we're replicating that now through Guidefitter.
And they've used those products, and they found out what works, and they found out what fails for them. So that's a great resource, and I'm excited about this next growth phase for you guys. But all right, we've got about a minute left here, and I know it's not a lot of time, but Ramon and I and you share a common love for barbecue. So you've lived in Texas, now you're in Montana, and in just a brief moment that we've got left, tell me what your take is on the difference between Texas and Montana barbecue, if you would. I know it could take an hour to do that, but we unfortunately don't have a whole lot of time.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I believe that Texas and Montana share some sort of, kinship. We're both border states, different borders, very different borders.
Right.
And obviously both cattle states and ranching states and all that. So we've got all that in common. But for some reason, Montana, and God bless all you Montana ranchers, because you got great cows, but I just don't think Montana has the pitmasters, because it's very clear that the nod clearly goes to Texas on barbecue.
That's MIT education right there.
That's right.
Yeah.
See, that was worth whatever you paid for your education right there. That was worth it.
It works.
Yeah. So, I hope Montana catches up because, oh, man, I miss Texas barbecue.
Well, you can come back and have barbecue with us anytime you want to. All right, folks. Unfortunately, that's it, man. We're going to have Bryan back and talk. All? Yeah, that's all. We ran out of time because an hour flies by. We're going to have Bryan on. We're going to do an hour barbecue show. Nice. Because we like to talk about food. So, Bryan Koontz, the CEO of Guidefitter, thank you so much for joining us today. And, folks, we'll see you next week here on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950.
Market's down and you're only getting mugged if you go downtown.